Have you ever watched a drama that starts with a ghost story and somehow turns into one of the biggest Korean series everyone can't stop talking about? That's exactly what The East Palace did. When Netflix released this dark fantasy drama starring Nam Joo-hyuk, Roh Yoon-seo, and Cho Seung-woo, fans immediately fell in love with its perfect mix of palace politics, horror, mystery, romance, and breathtaking cinematography. Instead of giving us another ordinary historical drama, it throws us into a palace where ghosts are just as dangerous as the living, and where every beautiful hallway hides another terrifying secret. Critics praised its fast pacing, supernatural world building, and blend of Joseon court intrigue with Korean folklore. And today, we're going through the entire story, from the very first cursed prince to the shocking truth hiding inside the East Palace. So, sit back, because this story begins on one of the darkest nights the kingdom has ever seen. Our story begins in the royal palace of Joseon, but there are no joyful celebrations here, only cold, paralyzing terror. The kingdom is preparing for a royal funeral because the crown prince, the eldest son of King Jusang, has suddenly died under extremely bizarre, gruesome circumstances. The entire court is whispering in fear because everyone knows about the dreaded 30-year-old royal curse. Legend has it that 3 decades ago, a pregnant court lady was falsely accused of sleeping with a guard and executed. Before dying, she placed a deadly hex on the royal family, promising that no prince would ever survive to wear the crown. King Jusang is desperate. He is a sharp, paranoid ruler, and he only has one surviving son left, Prince Yonggan. Knowing that normal guards and palace doctors can't fight ghosts, the king sends out an urgent royal summons to find 2 very specific people who can deal with the supernatural. Enter our main hero, Gu Cheon. Gu Cheon isn't your average swordsman. He's a rugged, brooding, and fearless spirit slayer who possesses a terrifying gift. He can physically cross over into the realm of the Gui, a shadowy, distorted mirror dimension where evil spirits live. But traveling to the ghost realm comes with a heavy price. It constantly drains his life force and burns away his soul. At the same time, we meet Saeng-gang, a young woman living outside the court who possesses the unique ability to hear the whispers of dead spirits. She is dragged back to the palace under royal command. Saeng-gang hates the palace with every fiber of her being because her mother was murdered there years ago, and she secretly wants revenge. When Gu Cheon and Saeng-gang are forced together by the king, they immediately clash. Gu Cheon is distant and cynical, while Saeng-gang is stubborn and sharp-tongued. However, when an invisible, icy breeze sweeps through the East Palace quarters and ghostly screaming echoes through the walls, they realize they have to work together if they want to survive the night. Gu Cheon draws his blade, Saeng-gang listens to the echoes of the dead, and they step right into the haunted heart of the Joseon court. Episode 2 kicks off with our duo taking their first real action together inside the haunted East Palace. Saeng-gang uses her special hearing to track the eerie crying sounds that are driving the surviving prince insane. She guides Gu Cheon right to the edge of the palace pond, where the water is pitch black and freezing cold despite the warm weather. Saeng-gang warns Gu Cheon that the entity hiding in the water isn't just a basic ghost, it's a wongui, a deeply resentful, vengeful spirit fueled by decades of hatred. Undeterred, Gu Cheon performs a dark ritual, slicing his arm to use his own blood as a portal marker, and leaps straight into the pond, crossing into the realm of the Gui. The visual transition here is breathtaking. The normal Joseon palace transforms into a ruined, dust-covered ghost town, bathed in an eerie orange fog. Floating debris and upside-down structures surround Gu Cheon as he searches for the spirit. Suddenly, the pond spirit attacks. It's a terrifying, long-haired creature dripping with black water and wielding razor-sharp hair tendrils. We get an amazing martial arts action sequence where Gu Cheon uses gravity-defying moves to slice through the ghost's attacks. Back in the human world, Saeng-gang has to protect Gu Cheon's physical body, which sits motionless near the pond. Palace guards, who think Gu Cheon is a fraudulent sorcerer, try to arrest them. Saeng-gang uses her quick wit and palace knowledge to stall the guards, standing her ground bravely. Inside the spirit dimension, Gu Cheon finally pins down the pond spirit and slays it with his enchanted blade. As the spirit disintegrates, it whispers a cryptic warning to Gu Cheon. "You think I am the monster? Look closer at the people who wear the crown." Gu Cheon returns to his body, exhausted and coughing up blood. Everyone in the court breathes a sigh of relief, believing the 30-year curse has finally been broken. But Gucheon and Saengang know in their hearts that something feels terribly wrong. Now that the pond spirit is gone, King Ju-sung orders a grand banquet to celebrate. But the mood is far from cheerful. In episode 3, the mystery deepens significantly as we start uncovering the massive personal secrets our characters are hiding. Saengang sneaks away from the celebrations to investigate the old archives, searching for clues about her mother's death. Gucheon follows her, suspicious of her true motives. During their quiet moments together in the dark corridors, the icy walls between them begin to melt. We learn that Gucheon wasn't born a ghost slayer. He was cursed as a child after a traumatic event that linked his heart directly to the spirit realm, forcing him to hunt monsters just to stay alive. Meanwhile, a massive bomb is dropped on us regarding Saengang's identity. Through a tense flashback and palace court records, we discover that Saengang isn't just a random girl who can hear spirits. She is actually King Jusang's secret daughter. Years ago, her mother was a low-ranking court maid who became the king's concubine. But due to dangerous palace politics, Saengang was banished from the court as a child, and her mother was murdered to keep her hidden. The king knows who she is, which is the real reason he summoned her back under the guise of an investigation. Just when it seems like the palace is finally safe, terror strikes again. During the middle of the night, Prince Yonggan, the king's last remaining heir, starts screaming in agony. Black veins spread across his face, and he collapses right in front of his court physicians. Gucheon rushes to the scene, but it's too late. The prince dies in his arms. The entire court falls into absolute chaos. The pawn spirit is dead, so how is the curse still killing the royal family? The realization hits like a lightning bolt. The supernatural curse was just a cover story. There is a real, living killer walking inside the palace walls. Episode 4 flips the show on its head, morphing from a ghost story into a high-stakes political thriller. King Ju-sung loses his mind with grief and paranoia after losing his second son. He locks down the entire East Palace and threatens to execute every servant and minister if the true murderer isn't found within 3 days. Gucheon and Saengang team up to conduct a secret autopsy on Prince Yonggan's body. Saengang uses her heightened senses and medical knowledge to examine the corpse, discovering subtle traces of a rare, slow-acting plant poison that leaves black marks on the veins. This confirms their terrifying theory. Human hands are poisoning the princes, and they are using dark magic rituals to make the deaths look like ghostly curses. Their investigation leads them into the depths of the Queen Dowager's pavilion. The Queen Dowager, Saengang's grandmother, presents herself to the public as a pious, gentle grandmother who prays daily for the royal family. But behind closed doors, she is a cold-blooded political mastermind. Saengang sneaks into her private quarters and finds hidden incense burners containing the exact poison used on the prince. The emotional weight of this episode is heartbreaking. Saengang had always held on to the belief that her grandmother was the one person in the court who loved her and tried to protect her family. Discovering that her beloved grandmother was actually the mastermind behind 30 years of murders breaks Saengang's heart into a million pieces. To make matters worse, Saengang learns that her own deceased mother was forced to help carry out these poisonings years ago under threat of death. When the Queen Dowager catches Saengang snooping, she doesn't deny a thing. Instead, she coldly tells Saengang that sacrifices must be made to ensure her family retains absolute control over the Joseon throne. Following the intense confrontation in episode 4, the tension inside the East Palace reaches an explosive boiling point. In episode 5, the Queen Dowager realizes that Saengang and Gucheon know too much, so she decides to wipe them out before they can expose her to the king. She frames Gucheon for the murder of Prince Yonggan, claiming that his dark spirit-slaying powers were actually witchcraft used to kill the royal family. Royal guards swarm Gucheon, leading to a stunning action sequence where he fights off dozens of soldiers using non-lethal strikes, desperate not to kill innocent men. Meanwhile, Saengang is captured and thrown into the palace dungeons by her grandmother's loyal guards. While trapped in the dark cell, Saengang hears the sorrowful voices of the dead royal women who perished over the last 30 years. Their ghost whispers reveal the final piece of the historical puzzle. The Queen Dowager hadn't just poisoned the recent princes. 30 years ago, she engineered the execution of the innocent court lady to create the myth of the pond spirit curse in the first place. She used the public's fear of ghosts to hide her political assassinations for decades. Gu Cheon refuses to abandon Sang-gang. Despite being hunted across the capital, he sneaks back into the royal prison. In a super swoon-worthy and emotional scene, he breaks down the heavy iron door of her cell. The romantic connection between these two is subtle, built entirely on trust, shared trauma, and quiet sacrifices. He grabs her hand, telling her, "I promise to protect you from the dead, but I won't let the living hurt you either." Together, they battle their way out of the prison complex, heading straight toward the king's private throne room to deliver the ultimate truth. Episode 6 is pure dramatic gold, featuring incredible performances from the entire cast. Gu Cheon and Sang-gang burst into King Jusang's chambers, surrounded by armed guards with swords drawn at their necks. The Queen Dowager is already standing next to the throne, playing the innocent victim and urging her son, the king, to execute them on the spot. Instead of fighting, Sang-gang drops to her knees and lays out the undeniable physical evidence: the poisoned incense, the medical notes, and her mother's hidden diary detail every murder orchestrated by the Queen Dowager. King Jusang, played brilliantly with terrifying intensity by Cho Seung-woo, confronts his own mother. In a shocking twist, we realize that the king wasn't entirely blind. He had suspected his mother's ruthless ambitions for years, but was too weak and terrified to stop her. Faced with overwhelming proof, the Queen Dowager breaks her regal facade. In an iconic, chilling scene, she screams at the king, declaring that everything she did was to secure his throne and eliminate weak heirs who would have brought ruin to the dynasty. King Jusang, overwhelmed by guilt and horror, orders his mother to be stripped of her title and locked away forever in the abandoned Western palace. The human mystery is finally solved, but the supernatural terror is far from over. All the decades of blood, murder, and intense human resentment inside the East Palace have birthed something far worse than a simple pond ghost. The dark energy has summoned an akgui, a primordial evil spirit that takes the twisted form of the deceased crown prince. The demon manifests in the center of the palace courtyard, devouring the souls of guards and spreading black corruption across the sky. With the primordial evil spirit running amok, Episode 7 delivers non-stop, high-octane action. The demonized crown prince is virtually unstoppable in the physical world. Normal steel blades pass right through his ghostly body. The only way to destroy him permanently is to strike his core inside the deepest layer of the realm of the Gui. Knowing that Gu Cheon's body is already severely weakened and that entering the spirit world again will likely kill him, Sang-gang makes a desperate, selfless choice. She secretly mixes a sleeping draft into Gu Cheon's tea. As he passes out, she kisses his forehead, steals his spirit-tracking talisman, and decides to enter the realm of the Gui by herself to face her demonic half-brother. Sang-gang steps into the orange haze mirror dimension alone. She uses her ability to hear spirits to locate the core of the Akgui amidst the crumbling, gravity-defying ruins of the spirit courtyard. A tense, terrifying battle begins. Sang-gang uses enchanted talismans and her fierce agility to fight back, but the demon is simply too powerful. He pins her against a crumbling stone wall, lifting her by the throat as her breath starts to fade. Meanwhile, back in the physical world, Gu Cheon wakes up from his drugged sleep. Realizing what Sang-gang has done, he panics. Desperate to save the woman he loves, Gu Cheon performs the ultimate taboo ritual. He calls upon the primordial spirit king and makes a terrifying dark bargain. In exchange for a legendary spirit-killing sword, Gu Cheon agrees to bind his soul forever to the realm of the Gui, meaning he can never live as a normal human being again. Armed with the glowing soul blade, Gu Cheon tears through the dimensional barrier and leaps into the spirit sky to save Sang-gang. Here we are at the grand finale, Episode 8. The climax opens with a wuxia-style aerial duel in the realm of the Gui. Gu Cheon flies through the floating debris of the Mirror Palace, clashing swords with the demonic crown prince in an absolute visual masterpiece of magic and martial arts. With Sang-gang shouting guidance on the demon's weak points, Gu Cheon delivers a devastating, light-infused strike straight through the Akgui's heart. The spirit explodes into millions of glowing embers, purifying 30 years of dark curses hanging over the Joseon royal line. As the spirit realm begins to collapse around them, Gu Cheon carries an exhausted Saeungang back toward the portal leading to the human world. But as Saeungang steps through to safety, she turns around and sees thick, dark spectral chains wrapping tightly around Gu Cheon's wrists and neck, dragging him back into the shadows. His dark bargain has come due. Crying hysterically, Saeungang reaches out for his hand, but Gu Cheon gives her a warm, heartbroken smile, saying, "Live a long, happy life, Saeungang. You are free now." The portal snaps shut. Months pass in the human world. King Jusung abdicates the throne to focus on rebuilding the kingdom's morality, and palace life slowly returns to peace. Saeungang leaves the palace forever, choosing to live in a quiet countryside house surrounded by flowers, just like her mother had always wanted. In the final chilling shot of the series, Saeungang is walking near a tranquil forest stream at sunset. Suddenly, the ambient sounds of nature go completely silent. The water in the stream freezes over into black ice, and from the shadowy treeline we hear the faint, echoing sound of heavy iron chains dragging across the ground. Saeungang turns around, smiles softly with tears in her eyes, and we cut to black. And that, my friends, is the complete thrilling story of the East Palace. What a mind-blowing ride. It takes you on an absolute roller coaster ride, starting as a terrifying ghost hunt, turning into a dark political conspiracy, and ending with one of the most emotional, bittersweet sacrifices in K-drama history. The way the story proves that human ambition and greed can be far deadlier than any supernatural curse is just brilliant writing. Plus, that final scene leaves the door wide open for an epic season 2. When we step back and look at the whole picture of the East Palace, what truly makes this drama an instant classic isn't just the gorgeous CGI or the thrilling sword fights. It's how masterfully the writers contrast the horrors of the unseen world with the terrifying reality of human corruption. Throughout all 8 episodes, the show continuously plays with the idea of what a true monster actually is. On one hand, you have Gu Cheon, a man forced to literally burn away his own soul and carry physical scars just to hunt down the resentful spirits roaming the realm of the Gui. He looks like a dangerous, dark figure on the outside, yet he possesses the purest heart in the entire kingdom, willing to condemn himself to eternal damnation just so Saeungang can live freely. On the other hand, you have the royal court, a place filled with silk robes, golden thrones, and polished manners, which turns out to be far more toxic and deadly than the spirit dimension itself. The Queen Dowager didn't need sharp fangs or dark sorcery to destroy dozens of lives. Her weapon was cold, calculated political ambition masked as maternal protection. She used the ordinary people's fear of supernatural curses as a convenient cloak to murder innocent heirs, showing us that the most merciless monsters don't hide in the dark depths of black ponds. They sit right on the throne wearing royal crowns. Even King Jusung's tragic trajectory highlights how silence and cowardice can breed evil just as easily as active cruelty. By weaving Saeunggang's quest for personal justice with Gu Cheon's sacrifice, the narrative delivers a powerful message about grief, generational trauma, and love. The curse wasn't just a physical entity to be slain with a blade. It was a manifestation of decades of hidden sins, unaddressed violence, and broken promises within the palace walls. The ending leaves us with a lingering, haunting truth. You can purge the spirit realm of its demons, but as long as human greed and deceit exist in the living world, the chains of tragedy will never truly be broken. Thank you so much for hanging out with me through this recap. Which moment was your absolute favorite? Was it Gu Cheon's epic sword fights in the spirit realm, or that shocking reveal about the Queen Dowager? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more epic K-drama recaps, and I'll see you in the next video.